Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's free life training. We're talking about thought patterns today and a hidden influence that they have on pain, something that not many people think about and not many providers really tell us about when we're making our way through the healthcare system trying to figure out our pain. So hopefully I can highlight some of that for you today. For those of you who are new and have never attended a free training, thank you so much for being here. And that's whether you're attending via replay or here live. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you. You can find all of the replays for all of my past live trainings in the guide section of this group. So go back, binge those. I'd like to think that I've provided so far a lot of different, talked about a lot of different topics on chronic pain that might be fun to listen to. If you see me referring to the side, I do have some notes prepared, some talking points that I want to make sure that I get to. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it every now and then, and I'll do my best to answer the questions that you have. Otherwise, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us what brings you here, or maybe where you're listening from. And you're welcome to even comment with questions or introduce yourself in the chat if you're watching the replay. I will still get alerts and be able to respond to that. Okay, so let's dive in. And I want to start with a question. I want to know, or just have you think about, I guess, what have you noticed about your pain when you are experiencing negative thoughts or negative emotions like fear, worry, sadness, grief, irritability, or anger? And just think about that for a moment. We're just kind of reflecting on that. What have you noticed about your pain in these moments? And as I ask this, does the thought surface for you that I'm implying that pain is all in your head, or the idea that your pain is not real, or that I believe your pain to be psychologically based, or that I'm going to talk about your pain thoughts and this is going to be all your fault? You know, it's because you're having these thoughts and I'm basically gaslighting you. Have these thoughts come up for anyone as they've considered whether their pain gets worse when they're experiencing negative thoughts and emotions? And I totally get that. I think there's a lot of stigma that still exists around chronic pain that just won't go away, and even around mental health in general. And many people who are listening to this may have pain that has persisted beyond the point at which your injury has healed. Maybe you have pain for which no one can technically or objectively find a physical cause or a reason for it. And maybe you've been led to believe or feel like it's assumed that you're exaggerating the pain, that it's psychogenic, psychosomatic, or any of these awful, invalidating words. Or maybe you've been made to feel that you're over-reporting your pain and the distress that you feel, or that your dysfunction is more than should really be warranted by the physical aspects of your pain. But honestly, this is rarely the actual case. Sure, I suppose the possibility exists that there are people out there who might fake symptoms for one reason or another. But again, this is such a rare occurrence. And it shows up in reality as the tiniest percentage of the people who seek pain management. But when people have this experience, right, that their pain has been delegitimized by their conventional treatment appointments or by medicine, Western medicine, they are less receptive to information like what I'm going to share with you today. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Sometimes it's the elephant in the room. One of the main pieces of my chronic pain philosophy is that I always believe your pain is real, exactly as you describe it. And maybe next week is a great time for me to talk about my pain philosophy and all of the pieces of that. But however you're showing up right here, right now, whatever your pain is, I believe you. I believe it's real. All pain is real, regardless of whether we know where it's coming from, whether we don't, and how long it's lasted. But pain is a perception, and whether we like it or not, like all perceptions, it is filtered through the brain. Even for a broken leg, pain is in the head. The pain is filtered through our brain. Pain is only perceived as pain because our brain interprets a certain signal as threat. And the brain is the organ that processes everything. It's responsible for integrating sensory, cognitive, emotional information as part of interpreting what any given signal means, including for pain. And this means that the physical aspect of pain, the part of the pain that you feel in your body, isn't the only part of your pain that is reality. This means that the cognitive and emotional aspects of your pain are the reality too. Because pain is also processed by the limbic system, the emotion center of our brain, 100% of the time. This is part of the way it's processed. And to really deal with pain, to understand pain, and to get into the nitty-gritty of the unique experiences of the person that has pain, that is continuing to keep going, we have to get into our heads a little bit. And I'm here to tell you that pain is a little in our heads, right? But not in the ways that others have implied. So stick with me as I break this down for you today. So today is all about cognitions. What is a cognition? What are they? Cognitive factors are one part of a larger set of factors that generally impact our experiences in life and not just our pain. They are our appraisals of certain situations, what we think about certain situations, our perceptions, our expectations, the automatic reflexive thoughts that happen in the moment, our internal dialogue, our self-statements, and long-standing core beliefs. And most people think that when something happens to us, some sort of event, let's call that A, it creates a certain outcome for us. We'll call that C. If I fail a test, A, I feel like a failure, C. But what many people don't realize is that there's something that happens between A and C, and that is our thoughts or our cognitions. Because the way that you think about an event that occurs can either positively or negatively determine how you feel emotionally and even how you behave. So negative thoughts, by and large, lead to negative emotions. So if I fail a test, A, and the thought that shows up kind of automatically based on my history and experiences, I fail a test, the thought that shows up is, I just can't do anything right. And my resulting emotion, C, is negative. I feel like a failure. Positive thoughts, by and large, lead to positive emotions. And to give it less of a label, we'll call it unhelpful thoughts, lead to unhelpful emotions, and often unhelpful coping skills or behaviors. So most of us can think of a time, and actually just to step back for a minute, even with that example of failing a test, if I think to myself, I just can't do anything right, and then I feel like a failure, I'm probably less likely to go on to engage in some sort of positive coping related behavior. I might be more likely to throw on Netflix, get some potato chips, and sit there and just kind of, like numb myself, right? Or maybe I just kind of crawl into bed because I'm really upset. Or maybe I was supposed to go out with my friends that night and get some social activity, but instead I'd rather stay home, right? But if we have a thought instead, wow, I didn't do so well on that test. I wonder what I can do next time to get a better grade. That might lead you to feel a little bit, it's still, reasonable to feel disappointed, but you're feeling disappointed with the opportunity of a plan. I think that places us in a better place to see what we can do to improve our experiences next time. Most of us can probably think of a time that we got really worked up about something, an automatic response, really upset. Maybe you even had big emotions about something that was happening, an intense reaction, an unhelpful way of responding or coping, only to find out later that what you thought was happening wasn't actually the case or wasn't as bad as you thought. And a lot of this happens automatically, kind of like a reflex, sometimes outside of our awareness, outside of our control. And again, it's based on our past experiences and our belief systems. And those are unique to all of us. It happens to all of us, but our past experiences and belief systems are unique to us individually. And in the case of pain, science and research believe that the link between chronic pain and negative emotions is quite strong, with negative emotions being related to increased pain intensity, increased disability, and lower tolerance for pain. And we all know that negative thoughts and emotions are a really common experience when it comes to chronic pain. Honestly, in my opinion, very reasonable. Humans are not meant to be in pain for years on end, but we are here today because they do play a role as well in the cycle that keeps pain going. So this process is such an important part of the pain experience that there's an entire evidence-based treatment protocol designed to address it. And it's called cognitive behavioral therapy for chronic pain, and it can only be delivered by a pain psychologist or someone with very specialized treatment. But here's why we're here today. Since emotions can impact pain and emotions are impacted by how we think, we need to make sure that our thoughts around our pain are as neutral as possible, that we break their impact on our cycle of pain, we reduce the threat. And even more specifically, we want to make sure that they are accurate, of course, based in reality, healthy, and helpful. So notice that I didn't say we need to make sure they're positive. I'm not talking about fake it till you make it here, and I'm not talking about drumming up positive thoughts where there are none. We're simply talking about neutralizing them a bit with some education. And sometimes, even with the best of intentions, it's hard to do this on our own. I know this from personal experience because I've had chronic pain. I've had all of the training on recognizing cognitions that are unhelpful and knowing exactly what to do with them. And sometimes it's hard to recognize your own thought patterns and intervene with them without the right education coming from outside yourself. So, can you think of a time in your own life where negative thoughts specifically led to negative emotions or negative outcomes? Or maybe an example of a time that you noticed your thoughts went somewhere unhelpful, and so you tried to switch to something more helpful. And how did more neutral or helpful thinking lead to more positive emotions or outcomes, or even more neutral emotions? When we're talking about chronic pain, there's one sort of label that we'll give to, I would say, the most impactful types of cognitions for chronic pain fall under the label of something called catastrophic thinking. And this word, catastrophic thinking, was first used to describe a cognitive style that we often would see in someone with anxiety and depression. But for pain specifically, catastrophic thinking is a cognitive pattern that shows up really commonly. And this occurs because, again, reasonably, pain is a negative experience that in some instances, or at least in the way we're thinking about it, can signal injury, illness, or danger. These are the thoughts that come up, and they trigger emotions specifically during painful experiences. So pain catastrophizing is a tendency of your brain to magnify the threat value of something, to feel helpless, with difficulty turning off thoughts about pain. And science and research tell us that pain catastrophizing can significantly impact how someone experiences their pain. And it's really taken a prominent position in the world of understanding people's pain because of its strong relationship to the experience of pain. Um, People with chronic pain tend to catastrophize in three ways: rumination, magnification, and helplessness. I'm going to walk through those right now. So, the first tendency is to ruminate about pain. This is where someone can't stop thinking about how much it hurts. They might say to me, I worry whether it will end, and I keep thinking of these painful events, and I anxiously want it to go away. I can't keep it out of my mind. So again, I don't think this is an unreasonable experience to have in your mind when you've had pain for years, maybe even decades, okay? The second type of catastrophic thinking is that they magnification. They worry that something serious might be happening. They might say to me, it's terrible, it's never going to get any better. I'm afraid the pain will just get worse. I wonder if something serious is happening. Something must be wrong. I might not be able to support my family. I could lose my job. I could end up paralyzed. I could end up in a wheelchair. So this is where they've got the situation and their mind is really magnifying it. And I'm going to say this again every single time. I don't think this is an unreasonable thing for your brain to do or your mind to do when you've had this experience of pain, or perhaps you've gone to the doctor and you've received some really scary or threatening language. Okay, it's really common. The last type of, well, and just to say about the magnification, the magnifying, it's almost like an over exaggeration of negative thinking, and it can occur most commonly. And again, this is why it's not your fault. It can occur really commonly in situations where a person feels like they don't have control, um, but it can obviously lead to quickly escalating worries. And research does show that. Well, let me just tell you about the third one. So the third one is helplessness, type thoughts. feeling helpless to manage pain. They might say to me something like, there's nothing I can do to reduce my pain. I feel like I can't go on. It's awful. It's overwhelming. I can't stand it anymore. And so again, research shows that higher levels of any of these three kinds of pain catastrophizing can contribute to higher levels of pain intensity, difficulty adjusting to a chronic pain condition, or the pieces of that need to be worked with, right? Physical disability, distress, lack of improvement with treatment. And so again, these types of thoughts show up so commonly with the experience of pain because, again, humans are not meant to experience pain for days, weeks, months, years on end. So while negative thoughts can show up and it's not your fault and it might be a reasonable response to your experience, they're also not that helpful because they drive threat. They drive signals of threat to your brain, and that makes your brain more protective. It makes it create pain even more to protect you. So they're just really unhelpful, even though they show up so commonly. If you think about it too, have you ever noticed a relationship between your mood and pain? So a lot of women I talk to will report that when they feel frustrated, angry, fearful, worried, that they're more tense and they experience higher levels of pain. Again, this doesn't mean because their pain's not real or pain is all in their head, but it just means that pain can be amplified by many things, one of those being emotions. And many will also report the experience of having less pain or noticing less when positive emotions are present or when they're preoccupied or engaged with a meaningful activity. For example, when I get coffee with a friend, play cards with my family, or laugh with my kids, I might be noticing my pain less. Our brain can only focus on so many things at a time. Another example is athletes who don't even notice their pain while they're, fully engaged in their sport. They might notice it afterwards. And remember, negative thoughts open the gate and more pain messages get through to the brain. Positive coping related thoughts or more neutral thinking closes the gate because they send safety messages or more neutral messages to our brain instead. And they confirm to the body, I am safe, no need to protect me with pain. Sorry, they confirm this to the brain. And so what we often tell people is that when you notice a change in mood, you can take a few steps back. What was the event or recent event that happened? And what were you thinking in that moment? For pain, we can think of a recent time that a pain flare-up was experienced, or perhaps when pain interfered with something you really wanted to do. And just go back and consider what was going through your mind at that moment. And so your experience of pain is going to be impacted by the way you appraise different situations, the automatic thoughts that pop in from time to time, beliefs, and also behaviors or what you do to cope. If the theme across the board is threat or loss, there are a lot of danger messages getting through to the brain, and the brain is more likely to produce pain to protect you. And we really want to try to neutralize this, shift this in any way we can. We want to send more messages of safety to our brain. There are many ways to do this with the things we say, things we do, the people we spend time with, the places we go. But today, I just want you to think about how you might do this cognitively with your thoughts in a really intentional way. And there is a process for this. There's a process for identifying these unhelpful thoughts, checking them. Are they true? Is there any data to support this? What have my experiences told me? Am I jumping ahead when I don't have enough information to do so? And maybe to some extent the negative thoughts are true. And if that's the case, how can we neutralize them? Do we have data to support a more neutral way of thinking? What would you say to a friend that was reporting this thought to you, right? So catching the thought, checking it, and then changing it. And there's a process for going through these three steps to help manage the impact that unhelpful cognitions can have on the pain experience. Because what they drive could be the behavior that leads to a flare-up. They could drive the behavior that leads you to avoid everything that once brought meaning to you. Our thoughts can drive all kinds of things. And so we just want to make sure that they're as helpful as they can be or as neutral as they can be. So if this is something that, sort of resonated with you or that rings true for you, and you're really curious about, what are my thoughts? Maybe you could track them for a week and take a look and see if there are any patterns, what's showing up for you. And if you're thinking that, and again, I'm never suggesting that thoughts are the only thing driving pain. It's one of many factors that can fuel our pain cycles. But if you're thinking that this is one that you really struggle with, this is something that I have a specialty in, and I have helped all kinds of women work through the barriers of these kinds of thoughts. And within my Breaking Through Pain program, I actually provide an anti-threat system and a workbook. And I use this to help my clients disrupt negative thought patterns and reframe counterproductive pain language that they use or that they've been given. I help to, with education, promote more empowering pain language. And we work together to sort of figure out how to foster a more positive emotional state and a resilience mindset, right? Something that allows them to keep going so they can watch their quality of life improve with the change in mindset, the more neutrality of thinking, and the more adaptive responses that come as part of a ripple effect of addressing this, instead of continuously sacrificing who they are to their flare-ups. So this is something that's a big part of my Breaking Through Pain program, though it's one of many approaches we take to get women back to that level of productivity they're used to, reconnect them with the things that are meaningful for them or that they lost to pain years ago, and just bringing that feeling of ease and freedom back into their days. So this is one of many approaches that we take in the program. If that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about or that could be helpful for you, you'd like to get into the nitty-gritty of how your thoughts are contributing to the larger picture of your pain, feel free to comment me in the chat and I'll reach out. I can schedule a free call and we can sort of talk through your pain experience, and maybe I can see if it makes sense to work together or give you some strategies to help. If you have questions and you're listening to the replay, feel free to write them in the comments section, or just say hello. But that is it for today. I hope to see you all next week for another free life training. Have a great day.